This is going to be Philo Judeaus, also called Philo of Alexandria. He was born in 15 BCE to 10 BCE, and he died 45. It's like 45 to 50 BC, 45, 50 AD CE. Alexandria. He died in Alexandria, the same area. He's a Greek-speaking Jewish philosopher, the most important representative of the Hellenistic Judaism, known as Judaism. His writings provide the clearest view of the development of Judaism in the diaspora, as the first to attempt to synthesize revealed faith and a philosophic reason. He occupies a unique position in the history of philosophy. He is also regarded by Christians as a forerunner of Christian theology, like he created the good spell, the Gospels of the New Testament. Life and background. Little is known of the life of Philo. Josephus, the historian of the Jews, known as Edomites, who also lived in the 1st century, says that Philo's family suppressed all others in the nobility of its lineage. His father had apparently played a prominent role in Palestine, known as Palestina. They renamed the land Palestine at the time, but it was really Israel before Palestine. They changed it. Before moving to Alexandria, Philo's brother Alexander Lysimachus, who was a general tax administrator in the charge of customs in Alexandria, was the richest man in the city, and indeed must have been one of the richest men in the Hellenistic world, because Josephus says that he gave a huge loan to the wife of the Jewish king Agrippa I, and that he contributed gold and silver, with which 9 hued gates. Gold and silver is all forms of idolatry, by the way. Stumbling block for our iniquity for our forefathers. So these people ain't our forefathers. These are Edomites, by the way. 9 hued gates of the temple in Jerusalem were overlaid. I'm gonna say Jerusalem. That's what we are, but the thing says Jerusalem. Okay. And Alexander was also extremely influential in Roman imperial circles, being an odd friend of the emperor of Claudius, and having acted as a guardian for the emperor's mother. Philo was born between 15 and 10 BCE. The community of Alexandria, to judge from the language of the Jewish papyri and inscriptions, had for nearly 3 centuries been almost inclusive Greek-speaking. Indeed, regarding the Septuagint, 3rd century BCE translation of the Hebrew Bible into Greek as a divinely inspired. During the century and a half before Philo's birth, Alexandria has been the home of a number of the Jewish writers whose works exist not only in fragments, but these men were often influenced by the Greek culture, Graecia in the Bible, known as Graecia, like Graecia culture, Greek culture, in which they have lived and wrote apologies for Judaism. Alexandrian Jews, the Alexandrian Jews, Edomites, were eager to enroll their children of secondary school age in Greek gymnasiums, institutions with religious associations dedicated to the liberal arts and athletics. And them Jews, Edomites, were certainly called upon to take comprise with their traditions. It may be assumed that Philo was a product of such of an educational. He mentions a wide range of Greek writers, especially the epic and dramatic poets. He was intimately acquainted with the techniques of the Greek rhetoric schools, and he praises the gymnasium. Philo's education, like that which he ascribes to Moses, most probably consisted of the arithmetic, geometry, arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, harmonics, philosophy, grammar, rhetoric, and logic. And that's what he was about. And like the culture of the Greeks of his day, Philo often attended to the theater, though it had to distinctly religious connotations, and he noted that the different effects of the same music on the various members of the audience and the enthusiasm of the audience for the tragic of Euripides or something like that. And he was a keen observer of the boxing contest and attended the chariot races as well. He also mentions the frequent with which he attended costly suppers with their lavish entertainment. Philo says nothing of his own Jewish education. The only mention of Jewish education in his work indicates that how relatively weak it must have been, because he speaks only of the Jewish schools that met on the Sabbath for lectures on ethics. That he was far from the Palestinian Hellenizers, Edomites, and that he regard himself as an observant Jew is clear. However, from his statement that one should not omit the observance of any of the Jewish customs that have been divinely ordained, Philo of his critical both of those who took the Bible too literally, thus encountered the theological difficulties, particularly anthropomorphism, something like that, describing gods in terms of human characteristics, and those who went to excess in their allegorical interpretation of the laws, with the result in a conclusion anticipating Paul's antinomianism that because of the ceremonial laws were only a parable. They said they were only a parable, but they need no longer to be obeyed. Philo said nothing of his own religious practice, except that he made a festival pilgrimage to Jerusalem. But we say Jerusalem or Jerusalem. That's our homeland. So these Edomites were still there, still in Jerusalem. Though he nowhere indicates whether he made more than one such visit. In the eyes of the Palestinian rabbis, the Alexandrian Jews, that's what they are, Alexandrian Jews, Edomites, were particularly known for their cleverness, imposing puzzles, and for their sharp replies. As the largest repository of the Jewish law, apart from the Talmud before the Middle Ages. The Talmud is not our book, so that is the Edomites' book, the Talmud, another form of idolatry. And it says, for the Middle Ages, Philo's work is of special importance to those who wish to discern the relationship of the Palestinians and the diaspora in the realm of the law, halakha, that's what they say, and a ritual observance. Philo's expositions of the law may represent either an economic discussions giving an ideal description of the Jewish law or the actual practice in this Jewish course in Egypt. On the whole, Philo is in accord with the prevailing Palestinian point of view. Nonetheless, he differs from it in numerous details and is often dependent upon the Greek and Roman law. That Philo experienced some sort of identity crisis indicated by a passage in the On Special Laws. In this work, he describes his longing to escape from the worldly cares to contemplative life. His joy at having to succeed in doing so, perhaps with the Egyptian Jewish ascetic sect of the Therapeutae, described him as in his treatise on the contemplative life, and he's renowned pain at being forced once again to participate in the civic turmoil. Philo appears to have been dissatisfied with his life in the bustling metropolis of Alexandria. He praises to the he praises to the Essenes. He praises to the Essenes, a Jewish sect who lived in a monastic communities in the Dead Sea area for avoiding large cities because of the iniquities that had become interrated among city dwellers, for living in an agricultural life, and for disdaining wealth. The one identifiable event in Philo's life occurred in the year 39 or 40 AD CE, when after pogrom against the Jews in Alexandria, Egypt, he headed an embassy, the Emperor of Caligula. The embassy to the Emperor Caligula. Caligula is a Roman general, by the way. Caligula, if you do the history, Caligula, asking him to reassert Jewish rights guaranteed by the Ptolemies. The Ptolemies were Edomites, rulers of Egypt, and confirmed by the Emperor Augustus. Philo was prepared to answer the charge of disloyalty leveled against the Jews by the notorious anti-Semite. They always want to use that madness, anti-Shemite. They always want. That's where it came from. It came from them. That's their madness. Apion, Greek grammarian. When the emperor cut him short, thereupon Philo told his fellow delegates not to be discouraged, because God would punish Caligula, who shortly thereafter was indeed assassinated. Ptolemy sold, like they did, what's his name, Philo of Macedonia. And that is Philo Judeaus. I'm going to continue with him, see what he was about. Philo Judeaus, known as Philo of Alexandria. And like he said, he was born 10 BCE. He died in 50 BCE. But it says what Philo's genuine works is works in three groups. And it says the scripture essays and homilies based on the specific verses or topics of the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, especially Genesis. He had special laws that he tampered with. Man is free, and then talk about the Stoic paradox, the wise man is free, and all that stuff, and Philo of Alexandria. But yeah, he wrote the New Testament, the Gospel, the Gospel. Philo Judeaus, that's his name, and his name is Philo of Alexandria. So with that, I want to share that information with you, and may Yahuwah bless you. To hope you get understanding that who wrote the Gospel, the Gospel, known as the New Testament.